Hello, this is Debbie with Light Up Your Worth, and I am doing my favorite part of today and every day of you hear me talking with my guests. And so I am so excited to bring you my friend Sarah. Now, Sarah and I met through a coaching program, and what is so exceptional about Sarah and why I was so drawn to her is that we work with really similar people, and her sense of this like where you're grounded and yet you're free was the energy that she came through. So it was just so beautiful about how she was supporting the other women in this really beautiful space. And so helping uplift other women. And so, Sarah, I'm so excited that you are here with me. And yeah, I can't wait for everybody to get to know you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Debbie. That is absolutely an incredibly generous intro. So thank you for that.
And it's all true. It's all true. And she's a Gemini like me, right?
Oh, yeah. Gemini sisters, definitely. We vibe on that for sure.
The
Totally.
power twins. When I was young, I used to have a girlfriend. We had the same necklace, and we used to do that. We were called the power twins, and we would activate our superpowers. I didn't even realize it's a spiritual metaphor now, right? But I just thought it was a cool thing on a superheroes, right? Some cartoon back, and I'm aging myself, but it was actually a cartoon character to twin powers activate themselves. Anyway, go off topic.
Cool. Already, maybe we're setting a tone.
Yeah, there's my Gemini and blonde. Like, woo,
right there.
She went, right?
Yeah, you've illustrated our character with like to a T right there. It's perfect.
So I'm so excited to have you on, and I really am super curious to learn about your journey to who we see here today, this super beautiful, confident woman who's out making a difference with women. And I would love to hear how you intercepted with spirituality and what brought you here. So I would love to hear your, what you've overcome and whatever level that you feel comfortable sharing.
Well, thank you, Debbie. It's been a journey, that is for sure. And it's one that started a long time ago. My mother was woo back then. They really, I guess, called it new age. So I was born in the 80s. And that right there was gift number one. She was the first person to ever introduce me to anything. She took me to transcendental meditation lessons when I was 3. I remember basically nothing, but how awesome is that? That was super cool. That I had a mom who was, and I remember doing like crazy woo-woo things with her where I would be a kid and I wouldn't know. She'd take me to some class or a lesson and we'd be like shaking our arms and clearing energy. And like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just a kid who was along for the ride. So I definitely, like I knew I knew other moms weren't like my mom, and that was kind of weird. But I was also pretty down to embrace it. And I think what she did for me was really set the tone and create like this little being who was constantly seeking something more. I wanted to understand, why are we here? I would have long conversations with my mom late into the night, like on a school night as a teenager. Well, why are we here? And what is the purpose? And what's it all for? And give me the big answers. And she tried her best, but like nobody really has those big answers. And it led me down lots of different paths. I would go to church with my church friends, some of them quite actively for quite a long time. And my mom, even we would go to non-denominational church like kind of every now and then when I was a kid. And I ended up having a dear friend who was Baptist, and I spent a lot of time in the Baptist church with her. And years later, fast forward to my sort of early 20s, and I was engaged at the time. And my then fiance and I ended up kind of through family friends, diving into the church world, which even as I was in it, I didn't know was actually a Mormon community. And all those experiences, the woo from my mom, being a part of church communities, it was all part of that seeker's journey. And I love church and it's so beautiful, but those experiences also made me realize that it wasn't my place. It wasn't my home. And it also kind of led me to turn my back on the woo, because I wasn't, in my youth, when I was seeking, the woo wasn't enough. It didn't have those big definitive answers that I was looking for. So I think I turned to church and God to say, all right, well, there's a big man in the sky and he wrote a book. I mean, not really, but run with it. And there's this book that's supposed to give me all the answers. But the problem was I didn't like some of them. So it left me in this place of like, okay, well, if I don't like some of the answers over there, but this thing over here is really too vague, what am I left with? And inside of me being in kind of this like non-committal, non-seeking, almost atheist phase of life, I experienced a crappy trauma. When I was 25, my mother and I found out that my father had secretly been an alcoholic for what must have been years. And within 6 months of us making this discovery, he was dead. And I had, from all accounts and all outside appearances, an absolutely wonderful, loving family home where nothing outwardly seemed wrong. And I didn't even know that anything was wrong. And my whole world came crumbling down after that, because it led me to then go back and question everything. How could he have been suffering so much and never say anything? And what was he going through? And I never even had a chance to help. And grieving that loss was not something I did with any amount of grace. I essentially shoved it under the rug and carried on with life like everything was fine. And this led to many years of just shoving the feelings down and putting them away, putting them in a box, pretending that they just didn't exist. And it led me into like a long, dark night of the soul. I definitely hit lows, and I suffered from depression and anxiety. And it got to the point where I'd be lying in a ball on the floor crying, just wondering how I was even going to manage to go to work that day. And that was really when I knew something had to change. The world was not a safe space when I was in that dark space. The future was terrifying. I couldn't even conceive of what that might look like, because I just was so riddled with my suffering at that point in time that I couldn't even imagine a time when my suffering might end. And I knew that if there was ever a way that might possibly happen, I wasn't enough doing what I was doing by myself to change anything, and that I needed to seek. I needed to go back to my seeker self, and I needed support. And I reached out in all the ways that I could, be it therapy, reading, going back to those spiritual practices that my mother had blessed me with. And it was a long and varied journey of discovering that feelings are okay and we can express them, and that actually makes life much richer and more pleasant and joyful. And coming to a place where I could make peace with my past and make peace with myself, and understand that everything that I had gone through and everything I have gone through was all part of my journey, and it was all meant to happen. And it might not have been easy to walk through, But when I was able to reconnect with my spiritual side, I was able to look at everything that had happened to me and remember that it is my personal belief anyways. I signed up for this. I came here for this. I knew my soul made a contract for this lifetime that said, this is what you're going to do. These are the flames that you're going to have to walk through. And I believe that we all have free will here and that we do choose our own path, but that it's our soul has almost like pre-picked the lessons we want to learn before we get here. And I'm just learning them. And that's the beauty and that's the juice of life. And I'm so incredibly grateful that I'm now in a place where I can have a practice, where I can feel like I have a relationship with something higher than myself, whatever anyone calls that, be it God, source, spirit, the universe, and not feel alone, not feel scared, not feel helpless, but know that there is something greater than myself. And whatever that something is, my soul has agreed with that something to come here and learn these lessons and live this life. And however it all turns out, it's exactly how it was meant to be.
Wow. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. It's, yeah, that we've all agreed to sign up for what we have experienced. It's almost like you came back to yourself, remembering who you were in that experience and how you described it.
Yeah. If you're into quantum physics at all, I think
Mhm.
quantum physics is really awesome and super cool, because there's this idea that we're all energy and we're here, and the safe space is like, if you think about people who talk about near-death experiences,
Mhm.
it's reported often that near-death experiences are very similar. There's that light, the brightness, the overwhelming sense of love and connection and support. And how many times people wake up and come back to and they're like, what? Why am I here? I wanted to stay in the light. I wanted to stay in that beautiful place of pure love and divine joy. And I was listening to a quantum physics guy speak, and he said, that's our home. That white light, that pure joy, that's our home. That's where we all came from. And if that's where we all came from, then what could possibly ever go wrong in this life? It's like it's like a movie we've projected onto the wall, and we just get to go play the movie. We get to go be the actors in the movie. And the worst possible thing as humans that we can conceive of as happening to us is death. But what if you take that out of it? Because the thing that happens when we die is we go back to that absolute beautiful space of pure love. Well, then this is just all for fun. We get to create whatever we want here. We get to play out the movie however we want to play out the movie. And you can take that element of fear out of the equation. I mean, I would love to suggest that I have zero fear in life and I'm completely okay to like climb the highest mountain. I'm the first girl to cop that I'm totally afraid of heights.
Me too. Me too.
My boyfriend mountain climbs, and he
Oh,
would love for me to climb with him, and I'm constantly like,
no.
I can't, not for me.
Not happening today.
So it may, I mean, I understand I'm sort of speaking in not completely hypotheticals, but in a bit of an ideal here. But I find that an immensely comforting concept and an immensely comforting idea in life that we're here to play, really.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to go back to something you said when you were sharing your story, was about the feelings, where we have
Mm,
something traumatic happen to us, and we do get a message in society, right? Like, okay, I'm sorry that happened for you. Here's your 2 weeks off. Um, I want you to go fix it and then come back and be like how you were.
yeah.
You get 2 weeks
Yeah.
off of grief, and jump back in there and just pull up your big girl pants. And we're sad, for you, but uh, move on. And so we have that tendency to suppress
Yeah.
what we're feeling, because feelings are, when you get hit with something you're not aware of, there's lots of different types of the darker stuff, right? The darker feelings
Yeah.
that can come up,
Yeah.
and we're kind of shown in society to kind of, we're not supposed to feel those and
Yeah. There's
suppress them.
there's something about the culture, the North American culture, anyways, that we live in, that has taken feelings, and instead of lumping them all into one category, as they're all feelings, we've created this line down the middle. And someone somewhere along the line said, well, these ones over here are bad and we don't like them. And these ones over here are good and we do like them. And the problem that creates is we all go hard and fast diving after those good feelings because we're told that's what we should want. And though, if you're successful, well, then you're happy. There's feelings associated with what it means to be doing well in life, whatever that means. And those other feelings that have been lumped over here on the bad side, well, if you're shameful, if you're guilty, if you're sad, if you're lonely, there's something wrong with you for experiencing those feelings.
Mm.
I think what I would love to be a part of is creating a world where we're able to identify that all feelings are equal and that we need to experience them through their ebbs and flows, because that is really the only way you ever get to experience life fully. I spent so many years repressing those feelings and pushing them down and just thinking, why can't I be happy? Well, how can you possibly be happy when you don't even know how to feel a feeling anymore? When you've spent so many years hiding from them, running away from them, I mean, it comes out. When you take those feelings and you bury them, they express themselves in all kinds of different ways. And they're usually not ways that we like particularly. Avenues like addiction, food problems, binge eating. Binge eating was huge for me when I was repressing my feelings. It comes out in other ways. And it's like if your feelings were bubbles inside of you and they're air and they're trying to like come up and out, and you're just constantly trying to like repress them and push them down, they'll find a way to escape somehow. And it's like a less pleasant road than the one where if you had actually just let the air come out. I heard somewhere once someone say their therapist said, name it to tame it. And I absolutely love that, because that's often what it takes, is just a moment to acknowledge, okay, I am having a feeling. Oh, okay, this is what it is. And do some kind of processing. And that's not to suggest, I do very much agree with you when you say, oh, here's your 2 weeks, pull up your big girl pants and now come back just the way you were. But I think we've created that's just it. The 2 weeks is the problem. 2 weeks is not possibly enough to process your feelings. And yet in a way it's too much, because, okay, here's 2 weeks to go think and stew all day long, every day, and ruminate. And it's really almost, it would be more of a gift if we lived in a world where people could understand over time, oh, well, Sarah over here in the corner today, whose dad died 3 years ago, is having a really hard day today. What space can we create for her today? It's not, the feelings, there's not always a rhyme and a reason. And sometimes we can name the feeling, but we can't even figure out where it's coming from. And that's okay too. It's almost like embracing this kind of messiness that comes along with figuring out your feelings and what it looks like for you, because it's different for all of us. Some people process through their bodies, some people are thinkers, some people journal things out, some people cry it out or hug it out, whatever. There's so many different avenues.
Yeah, I love that idea, Sarah, of yeah, it's been 3 years, and now you're having something got triggered.
Yeah.
And now we need to allow you those couple days where you're just going to feel the feel.
Yeah.
And whatever that may look like, maybe for you it's screaming and kicking, maybe for me I'm on the ball on the floor crying
Yeah.
for 15 minutes, and then I'm out throwing a frisbee, and then then I'm
Yeah.
screaming, right? Like
Because it comes
whatever.
and goes in waves.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. That is I really like that idea. Wouldn't it be nice if we were able to do that, almost like a, here in the States you have this FMLA type of thing, right? Like you're taking care of somebody who's ill, and
Mm.
you can then, oh, I need a day off for doctor's appointments.
Mhm.
You can take it almost like the same type of thing. Okay, this is good for the next 5 years on this particular trauma.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
We need like a trauma hall pass for life.
right, right.
But not to be abused for processing.
Yeah,
Because I also don't want to like enable victim mindset at the same time.
yeah, that's right. It's so powerful, and connecting with being able to go back through and say, okay, what with finding and reconnecting back to yourself. So when you were first in that, getting back to that part of yourself, what was one of your anchors, the spiritual anchors that all of a sudden you're like, this one feels like, what, how did you start back up into that practice? I mean, you were so fortunate to have a mother who, wow.
Yeah, I was really my mom is like my best friend. I love her to the ends of the earth and back. I'm so thankful for what she gave me. She yeah, she taught me that it was okay to be woo. Um, so when I was really coming back to it, I think there's a couple of things. I've always been a big journaler, and not that that's necessarily a practice that people associate first off when they think of spiritual practices, but it most definitely can be a spiritual practice. I mean, some people channel when they write, some people just process their own feelings and emotions when they write, and that was me. It was really a place to process. And I do believe that inner work is also spiritual work. I think they're very much connected and tied together, and that the two can facilitate and help each other, help you down the path. One of the biggest ones for me, I would say, was meditation. And meditation has blown up in the last couple of years. Like it's like everybody's into meditating now, almost, it sounds like, which is awesome. It's so exciting that so many people are into trying it. And I think one of the things that I didn't even realize early on in my meditation practice is that meditation for me encompasses many things. I consider meditation time also prayer time. I call it receiving my divine downloads. Some people would call it listening to your intuition. Some people would call it channeling. Whatever the phrases that works for you, that's when I also receive my direction, my yeah, my that's when my clarity comes through. That's when
Mhm.
I'm able to tap into that light and love and energy that I was speaking about earlier, that like kind of is
Mhm.
our home.
Mhm.
And I have guides who I see. One in particular is very, very clear and very strong and present in my life. And sometimes I'm dialoguing with them, but whatever you want to call that practice, it's like, it's just my quiet time for myself. And meditation is a good way for me to describe it loosely. And I also like to describe it as meditation because I feel like it's giving everyone else permission to say meditation can be whatever you need it to be, whether it's focusing on your breath, whether it's using a mantra, whether it's following a guided meditation, or whether it's just sitting and doing it however you do it.
Mhm.
It's all, if it works for you, it's right. It
Right.
counts.
And it's interesting that you bring up meditation and prayer. I when I think of those, I think of like prayers when I'm speaking. to
Mhm.
my higher power, God, source, the universe. And when I'm in a more meditative state, I'm actually receiving. And I don't know, I've been exposed to so many different types of things that can fall under this huge umbrella. Like meditation
Yeah.
is in so many different forms, whether you talked about like you can get on an app, right? And have a
Yeah.
meditation that helps you fall asleep, really,
Right.
or really just stay in that
Which,
meditative state, or
yeah, is gorgeous. And I do that. I fall asleep to a meditation almost every night, like a guided meditation that I'm listening
mhm.
to on an app. Or if I don't, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Tara Brach and her work, but her meditations are beautiful.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
I haven't listened to her. I've done a couple different apps,
Mhm.
and I'll listen to them for a while. In fact, I started out the beginning of the year 2021. So if I remember when we listened to this, you know, again, or have you back on, is that, oh yeah, in the beginning of this year, I did a 21-day meditation off of an 10% happier. And I listened to
Oh,
his
that's
every day.
awesome.
So it was really, really beneficial to try meditation in a different format, you know,
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
trying different things of how I was starting my day out or ending my day or,
Yeah. And I think that's part of it. I think that's part of the spiritual journey and the seeker's path. And even it ties into this idea where we're talking about processing feelings is it's all ongoing. It's all evolving. You can heal a trauma, or you can learn how to meditate one way, or you can use a specific spiritual practice that 6 months from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now changes, evolves, turns into something else. Um, and that's part of the beauty of all of it.
mhm. I completely agree. The whole, when I was thinking about doing this podcast was, in my journey, I've come across so many really super amazing people, and
Mm-hmm.
they're all very different. And as I've talked to different people and how they show up and how they actually do their work, whether it's an actual person who does healing work all day long, that's their, their jam, or a specific modality, but so many people have tried so many different things, and I call them all like the tools,
Yeah,
you know, like
definitely.
different tools that we all have, and we combine them, and then we add in our own experiences, and then
Yes.
there you are. And I think that was one of the things, is we were talking about like the people that you serve are very similar to the people I serve,
Mm-hmm.
but yet there's this community of like how you show up and how I show up, and how there's plenty of people to help each other, and supporting each other in this, I don't want to say womanhood, but in community, in a spiritual, coming from this place in our hearts that is to love
Mm-hmm.
on everybody. And oh, if I'm not it, then you're it. So I would love to hear, Sarah, about some of the experiences of you with the people that you've worked with. Do you have um, anything that comes to mind, or somebody that you worked with, um, or maybe just an experience that was along your journey that really stands out?
Oh man,
That- That's a
making me
big one, huh?
think
No.
now. Yeah, I'm like, that's like a multi-tiered question.
Yeah.
In terms of working with people, I think one of the things I am very keen to do is help them create that community and help people find ways to feel. I've heard you say in some of your previous episodes, you've talked about like coming out of the spiritual closet.
Hmm.
And I had never heard that phrase before listening to your podcast. And I absolutely love it. I think it's so great because I have worked with clients. I have spoken to people who say, well, I kind of live in a small place and I don't really have that many people around me who believe these same things that I believe or practice these same habits that I practice. And I'm so glad I found you because you get it and you understand and you're on the same page. And it's like I just want to create this container and this space for women and bring them together, help them find each other. I mean, one of the great gifts of our online world is the fact that we can create these virtual spaces for people to come together. And that's something I really want to create more of in my work. And it's helping to like spread the word and normalize the woo, so to speak. Is definitely one of the things that I have felt powerfully called to do in my work. Yeah.
Yeah. Normalize the woo. You know, I love that because it's easier to go find a more traditional place to connect with what they believe is their version and that's great, right? Like if that's what people feel called to, or maybe it's a combination of things, but that sense of community that you are okay, like
yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting to hear other women who are either already actively quite engaged in their own spiritual practice, or women who are just starting out in their spiritual practice. Inevitably, it comes up in conversation in pretty short order. Well, I have these two girlfriends over here, and I'm close with them, but they already think I'm crazy, so I don't really share with them my like full crazy, which is really just their true authentic spiritual journey. And I feel for those women when they say that, because I mean, no one wants to have to hide a part of themselves, and it can actually be a very vulnerable thing to come out of the spiritual closet, because it does mean that sometimes, yeah, you're going to face, suddenly you'll be talking about manifesting something one day, and people will be like, what do you mean you're manifesting abundance? Like, how does that work? And you get that kind of like, I don't know about that vibe from them. And that's not always the most comfortable position to be in, but it's also one of the reasons why I think it's so beautiful that with podcasts like yours, or memberships, or like you have a beautiful Facebook page as well, where there's just these spaces where I do coursework. There's these beautiful spaces where women can come together. And even if they aren't in a place where they feel ready or comfortable to be their full authentic woo-woo selves with the people immediately present in their physical lives, there's still a way to find community. There's still a way for us to share what we're going through and share our journeys and build each other up and be there supporting one another along our paths in life, and also our spiritual paths.
I love that, because sometimes you're in a community and you're trying to work through something, and let's see. So you're trying to work through trauma. Like when I lost my dad, it was very traumatic, and as well. And I thought, okay, I really having a lot of grief here. I need to get somebody who specializes in therapy for grief, like apparent grief. So I remember trying to find somebody who was more on the spiritual side versus the religious side, because I wanted and I needed at a really deep level to share everything. I needed to share that he was coming to me in my dreams and sharing messages. Wow. And he was still close by, and he had messages for my mom. He had,
oh wow.
And so I needed a safe place to talk, because that healing, what I found is I did some of the traditional stuff, and then I was like, okay, now I need to go do it by myself, because they weren't really in the spot to understand, like, this isn't a mental condition. This is, like, I'm not hearing voices. I'm hearing this this voice, and it's not like the mental voices.
Yes. And that that is something that I love to do in my work. Is I love to help people understand the difference. I think especially because we are part of a society that is so based in like masculine energy, and we do tend to um, value productivity and efficiency and like, genius and great thinkers. Um, that it's become difficult, I think, for us to understand what is the brain spiral, what is the thought spiral that's going on in my mind versus what's my intuition, what are the divine downloads I'm receiving, what how do I find my inner wisdom, and what's the difference? Because we do have those voices in our head, but how can you tell, well, who's your inner critic and what is a divine guidance message, and what do those look like, and how
Mhm.
can you learn to trust and tell the difference between the two?
Mhm. Yeah, and then how much of it is, the society stuff? I was listening to
Hmm.
a lesson by one of my mentors that was recorded at the beginning of last year, and I was just listening to it.
Hmm.
These two gentlemen who I highly, highly respect, and they were talking about how you pick up things, when you're really little, like
Yeah.
fears. We pick up a lot of fears when we're small, like, oh, don't touch that, don't. And we hear so much of this programming
Hmm.
as we start to get bigger. Now the fears are there if you're going to go like don't jump in front of a car, right? Like there's some
Yes.
things that are here to prevent you from getting harmed, but they get so inbred into what we're doing that we start wanting to make different choices,
Hmm.
things that might be
Hmm.
what's now risky versus what was
Yes.
risky when you were 2 or 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're out there in this world, and I think the work that you're doing as a coach, super important to help people navigate, like evaluate what are we don't even know what those are around us until you start
Yeah.
looking at them to figure out these different things about ourselves. And you know
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, a spiritual journey is an inner journey also. And there is most definitely that conditioning that we receive, those voices that we've picked up along the way, even, it's our fears, but it's also our perceptions of self that we've picked up.
Mhm.
Those things, the teacher saying, oh, you're bad at math, you'll never be good at this. Or, oh, you're lousy at music, you'll never be good at this. And we take those on and we put them on like coats and decide to wear them for the rest of our lives. And a part of your spiritual journey is also getting to a place where you're able to shed those coats and say, no, that one doesn't fit. That, no, somebody put that on me years ago. That's not mine. I'm done carrying this. Let's take it off now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you were saying that, I had an image of a child. I was a child, like elementary school, trying out for, I don't know what you would sing. Why would I be singing with the piano, trying out for something? And I didn't get it, right? Like,
Hmm.
I don't have a lot of tone in my voice. And then one of my dear friends is a voice coach in New York City. She
Oh
goes,
yeah.
"Oh, I could teach you how to sing a song." She goes, "Anybody can sing.
Oh,
Anybody can
that's so
sing.
beautiful.
You don't have to be just that person driving in the car screaming or belting out Whitney
Which is
Houston,
me.
like "Ah!" like
Yeah.
I can actually teach you the techniques to help you sing. And when she told
Hmm.
me that,
Hmm.
I ran across these limiting beliefs. I was like,
Yeah.
no, I've been told I can't sing.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, where did that come from? I didn't even realize, right? And to all of a sudden see that talking to you, that connection, I hadn't
Mm.
thought about that in, gosh, 50 years or something, right? Or whatever it was, 40 years.
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
I'm not,
right. Like,
but yeah, we
I
don't
love
even know they're there.
my mother has like a story that illustrates like much the same thing that she's told me for years, which I love. It's so hilarious. She was in choir when she was a teenager in her church, and the woman who ran choir came up to her one day after practice and said, "Oh, Susan, your smile is so lovely, but could you please just not sing?" It's like, people, uh, for whatever their intentions are, they just, it happens. They say these things to us in life so completely blasé as if they don't matter. And then they impact us, whether consciously or unconsciously, for possibly a very long time.
Yeah.
And what you were saying before about the fear And now this conditioning that we take on is they're so interwoven, like that beautiful spirit that we have as children, where we're free and connected and just following our joy. You know, if you love to color, you're coloring, or if you're out playing in the at the park, because like it's just, you don't have to think about it when you're a kid. You just want to go to the park, so you ask to go to the park. And between those onset of the fears, well, the world is a scary place. We're told, well, the world is scary. This is scary. Don't do that. You have to be safe. You have to protect yourself. Well, yes, we all have a survival instinct. And then you pair that with, well, you're bad at math, or please don't sing in the choir. It's like suddenly you're in this little box. And it's the people like your friend who says, well, anyone can sing, that free us from that box that we have constructed unknowingly around ourselves. And I want to be one of those people.
Yeah, you're gonna break down all these boxes. You're the box
Thank
destroyer.
you.
Yay!
Yes.
Box terminator.
Right, I am now. We started, look, we've come full circle. Debbie, we started out with your cartoon character and we just found mine. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
I love it.
Oh my gosh, I love that. The so now if somebody is, they're hearing us talk, Sarah, so share with us what you do with people. Like, yeah, what do you do with people besides break down their boxes? So what type of do you do?
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's break down the nitty gritty. Yeah. So there are two things that I do. I run programs for women or anyone who wants to take them. It doesn't have to be women. And I also do one-on-one coaching. And all of the work that I do comes back to a foundational core basis of what I call someone's spiritual style. And I've come up with 6 archetypes that I see people tend to fall into in their spiritual practices. And really what they are is their access points to help you understand what spirituality means for you and give you a bit of a roadmap for how to deepen your spiritual practice, or if you don't have one at all, how to create one. So I do that either individually, it's self-paced with one-on-one coaching, or I have a 6-week program called Decoding Your Divine Downloads. And there's one-to-one coaching inside of that program. And then there's also workshops in that program where we dive into the woo-woo practices. So it's different every time. Sometimes it could be, let's do a workshop on smudging, or let's do a workshop on tarot. It's really dependent on the group that I'm working with and what is expressed as a need or an interest with the group. And then I also, that community component, when I run a workshop, I want to give people a space to come together and connect with each other, have a page, have a place, have an online forum to chat and swap stories and ask questions and really be their free, unleashed, true, authentic selves. And inside of that program as well, we dive into the spiritual styles. We identify your primary style, your secondary style. Some people are really kind of a mix of all of them. And get you to a point where, like I was talking about before, you can understand that difference between what's just the junk going on in my head and what is my intuition, what is my divine connection, what does that look like? Because I think what so many people are looking for in life is flow and connection and joy. And I do genuinely believe that having a spiritual practice can make life so much easier, because instead of sitting around and wondering, well, what's my purpose and how do I muddle through this in my brain and what's the meaning of life, you can get those answers from a higher source.
Oh, I love that. I want to know what my if I can pronounce the word.
Your archetype. There we go.
Archetype. Yes. Okay.
It's a mouthful.
Word. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the other thing I was, pronunciation. Yeah. So yeah, being stood, in front of the classroom and made fun of, right? Like, yeah. So sometimes I get stuck on the words, right? Even though how long ago was that? So the I just think that's a beautiful way to introduce people to their own intuition,
Yeah.
And we love to take quizzes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. It's so true.
right, aren't they so much fun and really
Yes.
understand, and you find even more community within a community understanding.
Hmm.
Oh, that's why I do that. That's,
Yeah.
that's why my first reasoning is to go this place. So that is
Hmm.
just absolutely wonderful. So Sarah, how would people reach you if they're interested in being part of some of that magical experience that you work with your clients with?
Yeah, thank you for asking, Debbie. So my two main go-tos is you can find me on Instagram, or you can find me on my website. So my Instagram is Sarah, SARAH .Francis with an E .coaching. And my website is much the same. It's sarahfranciscoaching.com. And all the info about my programs and the coaching is on my website. And if you just want to get a vibe and a feel for more of what I'm all about, feel free to come check out my Instagram page.
Oh, I love that, and I will put things into the show notes. You know, your programs, your Instagram, your website, so that they're able to reach out if when somebody's listening and they want to, just go to the show notes as well. I'll be plugging that in. So, oh,
Thank
this has
you.
just been so delightful.
Debbie,
Thank
this
you,
has been
Sarah.
awesome. Absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, this is. I'm so glad we were able to connect, and thank you so much.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
welcome. You're welcome. Two Geminis wiling out on spirituality.
Right?
Yeah.
Woo!
Uh-huh.
Okay. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, you're welcome. You take care.
You too.